Hello, my name is Jean Principali, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist located in Los Angeles, California. My specialty is helping people build healthy self-esteem. I work with adults specifically because I have found that unless we've worked through self-esteem issues when we were children, they end up staying with us as we're an adult. It's very common to use the term self-esteem when we're discussing teens or children, whether it's dealing with body image issues or bullying issues, or just not feeling smart enough, whatever it may be. The society is really big on focusing on building healthy self-esteem for kids. However, when kids become adults, again, unless they've worked through their childhood issues, they're still having self-esteem issues, but maybe they're playing them out in different ways, or maybe they're focusing more on the symptoms. A lot of adults will focus on having depression or having anxiety, and maybe not even focusing on the fact that they may be a little bit insecure in certain areas of their lives. When in reality, a lot of this stuff, unless depression or anxiety is chemical imbalance, a lot of it may be circumstantial, and a lot of it can be stemmed back to self-esteem issues. So, for example, if I have social anxiety issues being an adult, the reality is I may have been really awkward when I was a teenager. I may have, for example, been made fun of a lot in social situations. And so now as an adult, I have social anxiety. And all I basically say is, I have anxiety and I don't like being social, or I need to avoid it because I have all of these horrific symptoms. Right? At the end of the day, what's really actually happening is there's usually a lot of internal negative dialogue that's happening where I'm not supporting myself in an uncomfortable and difficult situation for myself. Right? So, for example, if I'm having social anxiety, I've decided that I'm just not capable of being in social environments. I'm not capable of knowing how to relate to other human beings, or maybe I'm not good enough because everyone else is more attractive than me, or everyone else is cooler than me, or I have nothing to offer any of the people in this room. Right? So that's where the self-esteem issues come in. It's the negative dialogue that we tell ourselves and then constantly reinforce ourselves. So I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. I'm not smart. I have nothing to offer. All of those are what our self-esteem is. And everybody has it in different forms and in different ways. Not everybody has low self-esteem issues, but a lot more people do than we actually realize, or we even take into consideration. Because again, as adults, it really seems like we focus on the symptoms instead of the underlying issue. So self-esteem overall is not feeling like you have respect for yourself or your abilities, or really doubting yourself in a lot of times all areas of life. If you have low confidence, you might be specifically just not confident or comfortable in one area, such as I'm not good at sports, but you might realize that you're good at a lot of other things in your life. But usually with self-esteem, what it's saying is, I don't really think I'm just good as a human being in general. I don't think I'm good at very many things. And the less things that you think you're good at, the lower your self-esteem usually is. And what we tend to do is just reinforce that we're not good at those things. So if I'm not good in social situations, I may go into social situations repeatedly, functioning in the same way, thinking that I'm bad, thinking that I'm going to stink at it, whatever you want to say, and then I end up self-sabotaging myself, and I say things that are really weird, or I act in a weird way, or even if I don't act in a weird way or self-sabotage myself directly, I may indirectly do it. So, for example, someone may say something and I just may not respond, or I will respond, but then I will look at how that person is looking at me, and I've decided that now that person is judging me. Now that person has decided that what I said was stupid, or that person has decided that they don't even know why I'm talking to them and that I shouldn't even be here. And so we look at all of the little potential signs that we can see in the situation to reinforce that we suck in social situations and we don't deserve to even be in them, right? I'm creating a potentially dramatic example, or that it may not be a dramatic example for some people, but just to give you an idea of what's going on. Because what's happening is all of the negative internal dialogue is we're thinking it, then we're feeling it, and then we're experiencing it in usually physiological symptoms, and then we're reinforcing it, right? And so we're not actually being a very good person to ourselves. We're not being a very good, supportive, nurturing friend to ourselves. And instead, we're basically being a bully to ourselves. So many people do this in many areas of life, but they aren't doing it. They've been doing it for so long that they've gotten so good at it that they're not even aware that they're doing it. So that's why I'm bringing it up today, because a lot of people, a lot of adults have low self-esteem issues, and it impacts all areas of their lives, whether it is social interactions, whether it is relationships, whether it's work, whether it's what you do, what even direction you try to take in school, whether it's school when you're in college, or in every area of life, it does end up affecting us. And because people are not necessarily aware of that's what's going on, they can't really change it. People will be like, I've taken medication and I can't get rid of the symptoms, or maybe I can get rid of some of them, but I can't get rid of everything. Because medication's not going to get rid of the inner dialogue, the negative self-talk that you have that is making you feel really, really bad about yourself. Now, we could go into where it came from and why you have these belief systems, and I'm not going to do that today. I'll do that another time, but I do want to just give people the general understanding of what's happening, with the hope that you can become more self-aware of your own process, and you can pay attention to when you're getting triggered, when you're having negative self-talk. What is it that you're saying? How does it actually make you feel, right? And so that's actually the first step. It's really important as the first step to be aware of what's happening. So, like I just said, I will repeat it again. When does the negative self-talk happen? Does it happen 24/7 throughout the day? Does it happen during specific situations in your life? Does it happen in social situations or work situations? Does it happen when you're around people who are wealthier than you, or people who you think are more attractive than you? Does it happen around people who you think are really cool and you would love to be friends with? Does it happen every time you try to fix something in your house, or try to get dressed in the morning, or every time you try to take care of your child? It can happen when you have an animal around you, because you think you're not good enough at dealing with animals or something. That's just an example. So it can happen at any moment, at any time of your life. And a symptom, or a way to potentially make yourself more aware of when it's happening, is if you were fine 1 minute and then all of a sudden you feel like really, really bad. You feel like crappy, or you feel really down. You feel uncomfortable. Maybe you're depressed now all of a sudden, and now like maybe your whole day has been thrown off and you don't really understand why. It's a huge red flag that you probably got triggered and there was some cycling down with some negative self-talk. You're not always going to be aware of it in the moment, and that's completely okay. It's about being aware of your process at any step of the process. So you can notice it after you did it. You can notice it the day after when you think back about your day. You can notice it hours after it happened and you're like, I feel like crap. Why do I feel like crap? Well, what am I thinking about myself? I'm thinking that I'm a loser and I'm not good enough. Okay, well that just kind of happened out of the blue. So where did that come from? Well, I got yelled at or reprimanded from my boss today because I did something wrong. Okay, you're getting somewhere. So what happened when your boss said what he said or what she said? Well, I automatically decided that I was a failure and that I hadn't succeeded at my job and I didn't even deserve to have this job and maybe I should be fired. I think that if anyone had heard that, they would have felt like crap about themselves too, right? So if you can pull back the time in your mind and look at when all of it started, you can become more aware of when you're really mean to yourself, when there's that negative self-talk. And the reality is just to give you an understanding. I'm not just informing you of the process and saying, too bad, that's it, oh well, enjoy life. Like, I want you to know that it is completely possible to get a handle on the negative self-talk and to be able to have better self-talk, to be able to be supportive and kind and nurturing to yourself. And that's my goal. My goal is to educate people on how to do that and to help you become your own best friend, is what it really is. It's about loving yourself, being kind to yourself, being okay with who you are, the way you are, and how you're feeling in each moment. Because we're human, and we have ups and downs. We have all different emotions. We don't have the good without the bad. They're all together. So it's about learning how to maneuver through all of the emotions, all of the experiences, and all the moments that we have, good, bad, and indifferent. And the best way to do that is to be supportive of ourselves in the process. And so when there's a lot of negative self-talk, we're doing the exact opposite of that. We're saying, I don't care what you feel, I don't care what you need, I think you suck, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you actually don't like yourself, although at this point, you've gotten so good at being mean to yourself that, yeah, it's kind of hard to have a good relationship because you don't trust yourself, right? So it's really just about becoming aware of your process. Think of this as a really bad habit that you've gotten really, really good at. You didn't just start a habit and it became a habit overnight. You practiced it. You got really good at it. And then you probably tweaked it a little bit to make it work even better for you the more you got to know the process and yourself. So you've gotten to a point where you have had this habit become embedded in your functioning, and you've maybe been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. So you can't just expect that you're going to wake up one day and have positive self-talk instead of negative self-talk, that you're going to be kind and nurturing to yourself instead of kind of beating yourself down. I suppose there are some people that's possible, but they even say, it's 21 days to break a basic habit. That's never been successful for me personally. It always takes a lot longer, and especially when it comes to negative self-talk, it's going to take a long time. If you were doing it for 30 years, give yourself a year. I'm not telling you it's going to take a year. I'm just saying, set your expectation realistic. Don't set it so high that you're not going to be able to reach it, and then you're just going to reinforce the negative internal dialogue. Allow yourself the time to do this process and to commit to yourself in a different way than you ever have before. So it doesn't matter if it takes 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, because you've been doing it one way that has felt really bad for so long. You might as well try a different way, even if it takes a really long time to reach a goal. You have the rest of your life, technically. So, maybe that's not very reinforcing for some people because we want instant gratification or we want to feel better like ASAP. But there is much more reward in doing it, slow and calm and consistent, right? Because there are going to be days where you're just not going to succeed, where there's going to be this negative dialogue that takes over and it consumes you. And now you feel like you failed and maybe you even want to give up. The reality is, anytime we're learning something new, we're not going to succeed right away. We're not going to do it right, and maybe we will do it completely wrong in one moment. That doesn't mean that we have failed. It means you're human. It means that you're learning, and there's always a learning curve. And so all it really is about literally picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, probably not literally, and then trying again. And you keep on trying, and you keep on learning more about it until you get good at it. That's how we learn how to ride bikes, for those of you who know how to ride bikes. That's how we learn how to read and write. So if you want to have positive self-talk and be a really supportive, nurturing friend to yourself, it's no different than learning how to do something that you haven't done before. So don't say, I will have 6 months' time, and then at this point, that's it. If it's not done, I have failed, and there's no point in keeping on trying. Because you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. Maybe it will take you 6 months, but why do you have to be so strict? Why can't you say, well, I'm going to work on this process. I'm going to see how long it takes, see how good I get, and reward myself during the process. So dieting is a really great example, because a lot of people do fad diets. A lot of people want to lose the weight really quickly, and then they hope they sustain it. I fall into that category. I've tried so many of them, and guess what? I almost always gained the weight back, because the way to do it was to take my time, right? To learn what foods I liked, to learn to go for the carrot instead of the cookie, and learn to be okay with that choice, and learn to be okay in the moment when I still choose the cookie instead of the carrot, right? And knowing that I want to go out and indulge in a delicious dinner with some friends instead of going home, and eating my carrot salad on one night. And that's okay, because I'm integrating it and making it a lifestyle change. So it's the exact same thing with this, with changing your negative to positive self-talk. So what about not giving yourself a time frame? What about just allowing yourself to do the process and allowing yourself to see how it goes? The nurturing yourself during that time, when you're doing it well and when you're not doing it as well, is how you're building a healthy relationship with yourself. So I'll just give you an idea of how to do it, and that's a good start for you. Basically, the biggest part is recognizing the negative self-talk at any point of the stage, even if it's a day later, even if it's a week later, okay? So you recognize when you did it and what triggered it, and what were the things that you were saying about yourself and how you felt when you heard those things about yourself, okay? And so then once you're able to do that, and that may be enough for you, because that's a lot of work, especially for people who have not paid attention to that. Sometimes then you start paying attention and you get overwhelmed. You're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? So sometimes it's just about the awareness with no expectations associated. So for those of you who want to go ahead and do a little bit more than that, or maybe you are a little bit more aware of it, the next step that's really helpful is starting to break down the process. So questioning those negative self-thoughts. Is it serving you to think in that way? Is it somehow helping you? And the truth is, sometimes the negative self-talk is a protective measure, right? It's sometimes an avoidance, such as I don't want to deal with the uncomfortable feelings that it feels having not succeeded at something in that moment, such as work, getting reprimanded at work. A lot of people do avoidance because we have to feel the feelings, and it's uncomfortable. But when we feel the feelings and it's uncomfortable, it actually moves past much quicker than trying to avoid it, because then it ends up building up, and then other things pile on top, and then it's just a big mess, because now we have to deal with, maybe if we lashed out and we yelled at our boss and cursed out our boss or quit our job, we have to deal with the consequences of those actions in addition to the original feeling, right? So it's easier to just look at it and be like, okay, so why did I start saying that to myself? Was it a protective measure? Like, was I not safe in that situation? Was I being bullied or bombarded? Was I a little bit overwhelmed? Was I a little bit confused or stressed out? Or was I really ashamed of what happened? Because I know that I had a big participation in what this issue was. Okay. So how is it serving you to think in that way? How is it serving to talk to yourself in that way? Is it serving you? Is the negative self-talk true? Is there even a little inch, a little teeny part of it that is possibly not true? Like, am I an idiot? Is it possible that I am not a complete idiot? That's still successful if you can say yes. Okay, so there's a chance that it's not true, or a chance that it's not 100% true. Okay. Is it possible that it's not true at all? Is it possible that you're being too hard on yourself? So you just break it down, if that makes sense. So if I have my boss yelling at me and I said, oh my God, I am going to lose my job, I am a failure, I'm an idiot, I'm never going to work again. So how is it serving me to think in that way? Well, it serves me because it helps me recognize that I did something wrong, and it's not serving me because it's me being too hard on myself. But it is serving me because it's reminding me that I need to be more careful, or I need to do my work more slowly, or I need to ask questions when I don't understand. And so it's me kind of trying to be tough love on myself to remind myself that I can do better. But it doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily get fired. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to never work again. It doesn't mean I'm a complete failure. I'm probably being a little bit hard on myself. Even if you're not sure, you're like, maybe I'm being hard on myself, but I'm not really confident that that's true. That's okay. As long as you're putting in a little sense of doubt to debate it, that's a good start. And then the next step would be reframing it. Okay, so it would be about, is there a better way to say that to myself? Is there something that I would have rather heard in that moment that would have been more helpful, or would have been easier to receive? Not from your boss, right? But from yourself. So instead of saying, I'm a failure, I'm an idiot, I do everything wrong, I shouldn't even have a job, I should be fired and never work again. Instead of saying that, like, how could you say it differently? I could say, well, I did make a mistake, and that was a pretty big mistake, and there are consequences for the work with that. However, I also realize that this is what I can do next time to avoid the same thing. I can ask when I'm uncertain. I can, whatever the steps are that you come up with. But it's okay. It's okay that I made a mistake. My boss said it's okay also. And so it's okay for me to be okay with making a mistake. It's okay for me to give myself give myself a pass for not being perfect. Because within the acceptance of I made a mistake, or within the acceptance of I need to do something different, is exactly when we accept ourselves the way we are, and it allows us to make change. Because there's no shame associated, there's no fear associated, because we've been giving ourselves the support that we need to make that change. As well as our boss, for example, was giving us the support, because they weren't firing us. They were saying, what happened and how can we fix this, right? And so that's what you do too. You treat yourself kindly, and you're like, well, I did screw up, and I will do what I can to fix it if it is, but mostly I will just make adjustments for next time. Hopefully that makes sense. I was giving an example of work, and that might not be something that everyone can relate to, but you can apply this to anything, anytime that you're having negative self-talk to yourself. It'll really help, and it does challenge the negative dialogue, because it puts in just a little ounce of doubt, which is enough to make you start questioning yourself. So start questioning the way that you've been thinking about things. Even if you don't know how to think differently about it, at least you're opening your mind to the idea that maybe this isn't the only option. Maybe I don't have to always go to this automatically, right? So I think I've given a lot of information, maybe too much to absorb all in one shot, but that is okay because this is recorded, so you can go back and listen to it again. And I will also have more these are videos, video blogs, I will call it, to go into more detail and to give you more ideas and to discuss how self-esteem affects us in many areas of our lives. So with that said, I am going to say farewell for now. I hope this has been valuable and helpful to you. I hope it gives you some insight about your process and you become more self-aware and are able to make some positive changes to really build a very healthy, wonderful, nurturing relationship with yourself. So again, this is Jean Prince-Valley, licensed psychotherapist in Los Angeles, California. If you want more information, my website is selfawareness.therapy.com, and I will be back again next week. Okay, have a good day and week. Take care.